Hey everyone, it's Cathy Zielske. Welcome back to my channel and the craft/dining room. Today I've got two fun card projects featuring a brand new set from Gina K designs. They both are built around the rainbow and beautiful flying insects. Thank you. No, really, flying insects. It's good. I'm excited to share these because they are simple. They're all about just straight up stamping, and those two card projects are coming up next. So here's a look at the cards I'll be creating today. And again, just some simple stamping with a rainbow of gorgeous Gina K ink. I'm excited about how these insects turned out. So let's take a look at the products I'm using. I am using this brand new stamp set designed by Lisa Hetrick for Gina K Designs. And look at how big and beautiful the moth is and all of the cute little details. And for this card, I'm going to do something really simple for the first one. I'm going to just take the moth and do some silhouette stamping. I love silhouette images. They're so much fun. And I've got a rainbow of ink here along with some Gina K embossing ink and some gold powder just for some shiny details. But let's get started with card one. So I'm going to take off my moth here, line it up, because I want this to go across in an angle. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to slide my paper over actually because I want this moth to bleed off the edge of this card panel. And I'm going to start out here with my first color. This is Passionate Pink. I'm going to ink this up and then stamp it down. And the funny thing is when I slid the paper over, I didn't realize I had slid it quite that far. So it did bleed quite a bit, but that's okay. It's going to end up working out great. But I'm going to wipe that away quickly before it sets into my MISTI pad and clean off the butterfly, right? Get it nice and cleaned off. And sometimes when I'm going to move a stamp and put it down and after I've wiped it, I will dab it off on some cardstock just to make sure there's no liquid on there and it's going to transfer water when I place it. Stamping down the second butterfly. And yes, instead of starting my rainbow with red, I'm doing two pinks because I love the look of this passionate pink with the dusty rose. Sometimes people ask me, why no red? You know, it goes back to my childhood. I love red fingernails, but I don't love red as a color. My mother used to always make my competitive figure skating costumes, and yes, that is figure roller skating, thank you. She would make them in red, and I always got so nervous when I competed, and so I think sometimes the color red just makes me nervous. I'm sure a therapist would have a field day with that, or not. But anyway, we're moving on. I am just overlapping the moths as we go, so it's not anything you can't do, right? Get a little silhouette stamp, overlap it, work your way across a given piece of cardstock in a wonky fashion, right? There's no science to this. It's just simple stamping, and I love that. And I think this is fun too for me because I'm not a new card maker anymore, but when I started making cards, it was 2017. And I jumped in and basically realized there were so many techniques I needed to try and that I wanted to do. And now, after all this time, I feel like I kind of just want to get back to some stamping basics because there's such a joy in just having the stamp and the ink. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm sure you do if you're a card maker. But if you're new at this, you might be overwhelmed by all the techniques and all the things you see people doing. You know what? Just go with stamping. Just keep it so simple and experience that joy. Because I really, once this was all stamped down, I just thought, I love this. Why don't I do more card panels that are just stamping? Isn't that pretty? Oh, we're going to set that aside and let Gina's inks smooth out and do their thing. Now, I thought it would be cute to have Trust the Magic of New Beginnings, and I like that little offset, right? A little asymmetrical placement. Pressing that down with my MISTI and just double checking that it looks lined up. That looks pretty lined up. And I'm going to stamp this once just to test out my placement of the sub-greeting. Because sometimes when you're putting those on paper, you think they're closer than they are. Oh, I nailed that one. Yeah, that's pretty good. But it's not a bad idea just to, test it once, see what it looks like. Now, I'm going to powder this up really well. Even though Gina's inks do dry very fast, I don't want any of the powder that I'm going to use to stick, right? Now, I am embossing, okay? This is a little more than just straight up stamping, but it's still a very simple panel. So the Versamark is on there. I'm pressing it down with my little tool here. This one is actually called the Nicole. Helps me to add pressure without hurting my wrists. And now I'm going to take this up, grab the Gina K Fine Detail Gold Powder, and sprinkle that on. I thought that it would be so pretty with a rainbow just to add the warmth of the gold powder. Okay, let that sit and tap. And that looks really good. Nice application. Sometimes I'll do it twice just to really make sure it's coated with powder and gently tap. All right, and then I just funnel this back in. I don't have a system other than that, but I will bring in a dry brush and just kind of brush along where little tiny pieces of powder may have stuck, and then I'll use my craft pick. There was a tiny piece sticking to the tea, and you can do that. You can just poke it away. Get my heat tool nice and hot and melt that gorgeous powder. Oh, so simple, but I love just that little pop of warmth that adds to this card panel. Isn't that pretty? I'm going to set that aside. I'm actually popping it into a book just to help it flatten out a little while we work on card 2. Now you can see how huge this moth is, right? It's big. And I'm going to just stamp this in some black onyx ink, right? Just super simple. Stamping it down, give it that press using my little press tool. And I'm going to do it a second time just because, you got the MISTI. Why not? Why not? Get that perfect impression and get it nice and inked up. Now, the wings are in place, right? These are little solid stamps to help you stamp in the wings. But what I want to do, I want to channel my inner Gina K here, and I'm going to do some potching on of color using one of my brushes in rainbow order. I'm taking a little of the first color, that passionate pink, and just sort of, potch is a term my daughter invented. I know it could be pounce, right? But I like potch. So we're potching it on just at the top. And the reason I'm using the brush, you'll see in a second how cool this looks, because it adds this kind of soft, ethereal, feathery, beautiful look. And now I will continue potching on a little more of the pink. We're gonna pump that up. I love that you can see through, so you can kind of get a preview of how it's going to look. And look at that. Isn't that cool? Always put that cardstock back into position. Now here, I'm going to lightly wipe away the pink, but as I go through this, I'm going to stop doing that because I didn't really need to. Because now I'm going to potch in the second color, which is the sweet mango. And I'm just kind of going on the top edges of my brush, right? And now potch, potch, potch. And I'm going to do it on the other side too, and layer in my second color. Give that a good press. And isn't that cool? Like, I wouldn't be able to do that by hand, right, to contain it in that space. So that's what is so fun about using your blender brushes to layer color onto your stamps, especially the more solid silhouette-y kind of stamps. So going in with the wild dandelion, again, right there on the edge, right? If you have little brushes, it's great, but you don't need to have small size brushes to do this. You can just totally do it by hitting it with the top part of the brush. Stamping that down. Oh, it looks so good. And I thought because that yellow was so bold, we're just going to move right into the green at the very bottom. So this is not getting the full rainbow treatment. We're stopping at green because we just don't have enough room. And we're stamping that down. Isn't that a fun way just to add a colorful wing fill? Look at that. It's so artsy. I love it. All right, moving on. Now, there are little details in this set, and I thought this would look really cool to introduce some shine and warmth via the gold powder with these little details. So I'm going to powder up just like we would. And I brought in my little Make Art station because I'm free range stamping here, right? I'm just gonna stamp with a block, and I need that hard surface when I'm doing this because otherwise I'm gonna make a hot mess. So inking it up, holding my breath, and stamping and repeating on the other side. Now the only way to know if it worked, add that powder and hold our breath, tap it off, and I think it worked. There you go. And we'll melt that powder too. So that just adds a little shine and a little warmth, right? I thought that would be kind of cool, right? A little detail there. So I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, it's cool. I like it. Let's set that aside and let it ruminate. In the meantime, I'm going to score a card base. This is US A2 top folding, right? 4 1/4 wide by 5 1/2 tall. And this panel is now straightened out because I just had it in a little book. And I'm just going to cover the back with some of Gina's tape, a little dot runner that she has. It's a wonderful product. And give it a good coating. You can see all that there. Use my Score Buddy, which helps me quickly line up panels on bases. Just like that. Press it down. And that is the card panel right on the base. Isn't that cute? Love it. Love it. And of course, some shine. A little dot of liquid glue and boop. I love Gina's glue for this. A little dot. Boop. Oh, almost didn't do it there. Another dot. Boop. Boop, boop. You know I like my boops. Boop. And the last one. I always look for sequins or confetti that have a mix of sizes so I can have 1 big, 2 medium, and 2 small. All right, now it's time to add a greeting to this panel. And I just thought it would be really cool to stamp one of the greetings from this cool set, and this is also a new set from Gina K Designs. And I went ahead and stamped and embossed it in the gold, because I thought that would be nice. And I'm using this die. Okay, so there is a little more than stamping, right? I'm gonna die cut. This is from Gina's Master Layouts 4 die set, and it's a wonderful scallop and stitched edge piece. I love it. I thought it was just what we needed, but I'm looking at that thinking, you know what? You need just a little more. So I did bring in a marker here. I brought in a Copic marker because I wanted to just add a little bit of depth and shading. Now, I realized at the start I said this is only stamping, but really, when we're doing one color of Copic, this anyone can do. I'm not a master here, but I thought just a little bit of gray on this. I think this is T0 is the color. It just needed something, right? It was a little stark, and I didn't want to add any more color to take away from the wings. So I just, I flicked on a little. I hope that doesn't seem like a bait and switch, just because, but it is basically stamping, and then that on the, But I thought that was cool, so I'm popping this up on a jelly bean green card base, press, 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 and that card's done. No confetti, right? We got a big bold image with plenty of shine. That one's good to go. So fun, so fun. So I hope these inspired you to get out some inks and stamp. All supplies are linked below, so be sure to check out these releases from the one and only Gina K Designs, and I'll see you back here with another card project soon. Thanks so much for watching today. I would love to have you become a subscriber to my YouTube channel. And if you do subscribe, be sure to hit the gray bell below the video so that you don't miss the next time I post. Here are a couple other videos that you might be interested in watching. Thanks so much and have a great day.